Cris Tales is one of the greatest JRPGs to come out in years. If you're a fan of the classic JRPG formula, which involves turn-based battles, random encounters, a phenomenal story overall, and much more, then this is a game for you. Let's get into it. Before we kick this video off, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to Modus Games for sending over a review copy of Cris Tales. This is available on every major platform right now. Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, Series X and S, also available on PlayStation 4 and 5, as well as Steam and Stadia. Like, this is on everything. Until they patch this issue for the Switch version, I'm gonna have to say get it on something else, because yeah, there's a bug for the Switch version that just makes it not unplayable, but very annoying, if you understand what I'm saying. I'm going to dive into that in the review in my downside section, but if they haven't patched it yet and you're playing the Switch version, I pray for you. But anyways, we're going to dive into this review, talk about the game, what's cool about it, what's the downsides about it, and why you should pick it up. Probably not on the Switch yet, but why you should pick it up nonetheless. Before we get into all that, I'm Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii content creator. If you want to do me a big solid favor, make sure you hit the like button, sub to the channel if you haven't already, then the notification bell, that way you stay up to date on all the latest and greatest content that comes from this channel. All that being said, I'm ready to dive into the review. Oh yeah, also one other thing, if you want to support what we do have channel memberships and Patreon. Links for those are down below. And yeah, let's get into the review of Cris Tales. Story. An orphan girl named Cris of the Nerum orphanage meets a talking frog named Matthias, who took a rose that she was pruning, and after giving chase to him comes to discover that she can traverse through time. Cris is asked to go with Matthias to meet a time mage named Wilhelm, who happens to be his friend, and is then given access to a magical sword and is given more information on her powers. Later on, Cris comes to find the village farm of Nerum on fire and under attack by goblins of the Empress of Ages, who aims to destroy the Chrysalis kingdom. Cris finds herself needing to utilize her powers and the powers of the crystals to defeat the Empress and embrace her destiny, even if she doesn't necessarily want to in the beginning. Gameplay. Cris Tales is an RPG in the traditional JRPG format, as you will encounter turn-based battles and will also encounter the, and now rare, random encounters. Where Cris Tales differs is in how it incorporates its time travel mechanic not only in battles, but also in general gameplay. The game renders 3 different flows of time at once, with the left portion of the screen being the past, the center being the present, and the right side of the screen being the future. It basically melds together the best of Chrono Trigger, Chrono Cross, Radiant Historia, Xenogears, and Final Fantasy VI, while crafting out its own unique identity. When roaming about the towns and fields, you can, at the press of a button, be able to jump into the past or future by having Matthias be the time skipper. When Matthias goes in the past, he becomes a tadpole, and in the future, he becomes a plump bullfrog. By moving across time, you're able to find clues and solutions to puzzles, as well as when it comes down to needing to make decisions that will affect various aspects of the game, including impacting the futures of various NPCs that you encounter. Unlike other games that utilize time travel as a plot device, Cris Tales really hammers down home that your choices have an impact in both a positive and negative way, and unlike other games, there is no other way to make a decision that ultimately benefits everyone. For example, there's a point in the beginning of the game where you have to find an item that allows you to fix a rotting issue with some buildings in Nerum, and you'll need to decide if you're going to make the decision to give the item to either a researcher that can use this to potentially mass produce a solution to the rotting issue, or if you're going to help a young mother who has an infant be able to maintain their house in order to raise their child. Whichever decision you make will benefit one while being a detriment to the other, and you will need to accept that you cannot help everyone, which I think is a really good way to dive into the fact that this is something that happens in real life. You can't help everyone, and this game is probably the best example of how you can't help everyone, and I love how they just explore that topic. The game's interpersonal dialogue between the characters goes a substantial way in addressing the moral conflict that this kind of power of time travel and being able to influence the lives of others really brings with it. The time travel mechanic in battle is implemented in a way that I have not ever seen before in any game, as it allows you to use Cris to use her abilities to turn the left side of the screen into the past and the right side to the future. This is unique in the sense that when you face enemies, they may either be more powerful in their present or future, sometimes even in their past incarnations, and so if you find yourself getting trounced by an enemy in the present, then it may be best to move them either to the future to face their older incarnation or the past to face a very young and small version of themselves. Willem is one of a few characters who can utilize status afflicting abilities such as poison and such, and because he can do so, you can pair that ability up with Cris time manipulation mechanic and poison someone in the past or present and then manipulate time to the present or future to speed up the process, of which can either massively damage the enemy or kill them with this method. Another example of this is utilizing Christopher's water spell on enemies and bosses, utilizing metal or shields that they'll use to protect themselves, and then doing time manipulation to go in the present or future to rust and break the shield and or items and equipment they have. The number of combinations with this battle system is simply endless, and I think it's brilliant how they've implemented the time travel mechanic, because there are not a lot of games that can utilize this feature very effectively. Graphics. This is honestly one of the most beautiful games I've seen all year, and honestly in some time since Indivisible. The art style is not done justice by just looking at still screenshots, as it must be seen in motion to be fully appreciated. The main characters all have unique and distinct looks to them, and no two playable characters looks the same, and the same can be said about the NPCs as well. Cris stands out with her reddish-brown hair, blue and white battle dress, and flower headdress, and NPCs, they all look really detailed as well, especially the bosses. The game's environments are so vividly vibrant and expressive that they just pop out of the screen, and yet to you, if you're familiar with this analogy I'm going to go with, they look like a pop-up book that you'd find in a children's book. Like it pops out, like it's a weird and unique 3D-ish 2D type of animation style that just perfectly works. The combination of 3D and 2D with parallax scrolling, honestly, it's just jaw-dropping. What's really cool about this game is how the game renders environments and characters in 3 different time periods of the past, present, and future all in real time, with you being able to see the flow of time. Seeing this flow of time lets you see some characters and buildings that may be either younger versions of themselves or older versions of themselves. Now, talking further about the graphics, as far as the Nintendo Switch version, the game runs at 1080p 30 frames per second docked and 720p 30 frames per second in handheld mode on the Nintendo Switch, as well as the Nintendo Switch Lite, which only does handheld mode, in comparison to other platforms which run at 60 frames per second and stay at a consistent 1080p frame rate at the base minimum and can go higher than that depending on the platform you're playing on. Audio. Every character you run into is voiced in this game, and it's something I was not at all expecting in all the years I've been waiting for this game to release. What really gets me is how superb the voice acting is, with every delivery being just perfect. The range, emotion, and cadence is amazingly done for every character from Cris all the way to the Empress, and it honestly puts the bulk of games, especially AAA games, to shame. Speaking on the music, it's fitting to the scenes and situations that you're in. However, there isn't anything to me that stands out or catches your attention the way the graphics and voice acting does. And while that may be disappointing to many, to me it's honestly fine. Downsides. I really didn't want to knock this game so hard because, for all intents and purposes, I absolutely love this game. But we must keep this review honest, and in keeping it honest, I must talk about how god awful the loading times are for the Nintendo Switch, which can make running about fields and getting into and out of battles an absolute chore. There are times when the loading times are so bad that you'll be waiting roughly 15 to 27 seconds just to get a battle started, and if you decide to flee, then just double up whatever you got to get into a battle, and there you go. And it can become incredibly draining. So much so that I literally at one point had to just stop playing the game overall because I got fed up with the loading times, which, you know, whenever that happens to you, it just is annoying. And it not only happens when it comes to battles, it also happens when you're in towns or in fields going from scene to scene or screen to screen, like different areas. It's terrible. The next thing I do find is a downside is the fact that you cannot skip dialogue when you get into a conversation with another character or in a cut scene. So you will end up having to sit through a lot of dialogue. It just simply a skip dialogue or cutscene button would have been nice, but I guess it can be patched in with an update, so I mean there's that to look forward to. Also, I wish Cris moved a little bit faster, as her movement speed is a bit slow and it's a bit, you know, it's like she's jogging in place. I wish we had the ability to dash or run similar to older games, or I know a lot of games when they got remade got this feature added in, but you understand, like when you're running around and if your character is just like trotting and you know they can move faster, it really drags out the experience. Another character I wish was faster would be Matthias when he hops into either the past or the present, where he moves fairly slow, and especially in the past when he becomes a tadpole and thus is not able to move around quickly, it kind of just drags his body along the ground. And in the future, he becomes fatter and slower, but, you know, be honest, it's not as slow as his past self, but it's still slow. Maybe if he has some form of time shift immunity to circumvent this for the player's sake, it would be better, but yeah, he doesn't have that. The last thing I want to mention is how the game has some of the highest encounter rates in an RPG since, well, Breath of Fire 1 and 2. Take a few steps and the next thing you know, you'll be in a battle. And when you combine the earlier mentioned load times with a high encounter rate, then you will come to know
profound sadness.
As Guy would say in Street Fighter 4. I don't mind an encounter rate that's high when the combat system is as fun as it is here, but when you have to deal with ungodly load times on top of that, then it brings down the entire experience of an overall Game of the Year contender. The wrap-up. The turn-based RPG genre isn't as prominent as it once was, and many of the games that define the genre have gone on to change from turn-based to being more action-oriented, such as the Final Fantasy franchise, and even Breath of Fire! I know, we don't talk about Breath of Fire 5, and we especially don't talk about Breath of Fire 6. I mean, there was a Breath of Fire 6, which is a mobile title, but a lot of people act as if it never existed. And for the sake of this review, Breath of Fire 6 never happened. Repeat with me. Breath of Fire 6 never happened. Okay? Let me just flash your memory, because it never happened, okay? Seeing a new franchise being made in the classic format of JRPGs of the past, with a brilliant art style and incredibly epic battle style, with an engaging story and believable characters, is something that I can sign on with and am incredibly excited about. Cris Tales is one of the best games of 2021 that is only hampered by its Nintendo Switch port, having incredibly long load times and some performance issues here and there. Aside from that, the game is superb and one that I highly recommend to anyone looking for an engaging and fun experience to dive into. And that's it. That's a review for Cris Tales. Honestly, look, if this hasn't been patched by the time of this review, if whenever you're seeing it and it hasn't been patched out, just get this game on another platform. Trust me, you'll enjoy it a whole hell of a lot more. But if for the sake of this has been patched post this review and they fixed the loading times and all the other issues that come with the Switch version, then, you know, go for it. I personally, it's the long loading times that just really, I feel, hamper the experience, but that's me. But anyways, shout out to Modus Games for providing a review copy of this game. I'm incredibly grateful because this is something I've been looking forward to for years. I mean, honestly, if you guys remember, the Cris Tales has been sitting on the eShop coming soon tab for, I want to say, since 2017. And I remember, you know, going to E3 2019 and chatting with the devs and getting to try the demo for the game, and I was blown away by it. And, you know, over the years, we've had scant details about it, like, you know, here and there, but nothing too crazy. But then now that it's 2021, the game's out, and it's one of the best games of the year. Just the Switch version is just not good because of the technical performance issues. Aside from that, I enjoyed it, and I'm glad it's out. But anyways, what do you guys think? Did you enjoy Cris Tales? Do you have it? Are you looking forward to picking it up? What platform are you going to get it on? Whatever your thoughts are, let's get the conversation going down below in the comment section. And if you want to take the conversation further, we do have Discord as well as Guilded. Links for both of those are down in the description below. If you want to pick this game up, I'll have Amazon affiliate links as well as Best Buy affiliate links. That way you can pick it up, and it's at no additional cost to you, and it helps out the channel. All that being said, I'm Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii content creator. I'm signing out. If you guys enjoy what I do and you want to support the work that I put out, I'm an independent video games and tech journalist, so every little bit helps. We got Patreon, we got channel memberships, all that good stuff. If you want to, hey, I greatly appreciate it. All that being said, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Deuces wild, too sweet, be the elite. I'll see you on the next one. Peace. Mahalo for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate your support by those of you who like the videos, who watch them, who subscribe. And for those of you who are my Patreon supporters, thank you for your continued support because you help make this possible. If you enjoy my work and you'd like to support what we do have Patreon on patreon.com/Mekel Kasanova. We also have Coffee as well as Subscribestar. So there's various methods if you want to support the work that we do here. We also have channel membership, so make sure you check that out. That way you get up to date on all the latest and greatest content that comes here, and first, and exclusive content as well. And if you enjoy the work that I do and you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. So with that being said, Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii content creator. I hope to see you on the next one. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button and ding the notification bell. And all that being said, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.